We are live, boys. Just
Oh yes.
What is up, everybody? This is Lord Chaos coming at you. Let's get right into the Nerfed podcast, I guess.
I am so happy to be here, Lord KOS. I'm not toxic, anyways.
Isn't that just great? I got that especially for everybody here. I'll pull it up.
That is beautiful.
It's for that intro.
Let's see. What are we discussing here today, boys?
Today we're going to be discussing.
Voice is a general
what the hell's wrong with the class and how we can fix it.
Okay.
Now, usually Admiral Munson would be here, but apparently he's tried 5 headsets and it's not working.
Just a quick clap for Admiral Munson.
Yeah, definitely. Only he could manage to break 5 headsets.
Nice work, nice work.
I also have to walk him through how to turn on volume for his browser.
I mean, he just muted himself on Discord, so maybe he's getting there. Even though he can't hear us and we can't hear him.
Don't be silly, we know he won't ever get that.
So we want to start with why Elf is broken, or yeah, it's probably the best place to start. Or why it's like broken in a bad way, like why it's terrible.
I guess yeah, because Elf in some cases has been known as.
Okay. So my personal problem with the class is that it has an insanely high skill cap, and although being map dependent, there's barely any maps in rotation that actually like suit its gameplay style. With the only ones being like. I don't know. Skyworlds, Blackout, like a couple maybe platforms.
I mean, to be fair, you've got to put that into context. Elf is one of the newer classes, and so there are less people
and I mean,
skilled at it. So less people are going to be there that are skilled at it to know what to put into a map to make it.
Yeah, like I'm all for classes being like map dependent. Like Necrar's a great example. Like Necrar is like really good on some maps and like completely useless on others. Which is like perfectly fine because that opens you up to like play other classes on those other maps and like diversifies gameplay. But like with Elf being only viable on like 3 to 4 maps out of like 50 that are in rotation, it doesn't put it in that good of a spot.
Rotation is a massive problem for certain classes. I mean, certain classes obviously aren't represented properly in map rotation, but just looking at the class itself is I think the major focus of this particular podcast. We're looking just at Elf.
We could discuss like armor, weapon, and then the elements.
Yeah, I think that would be more accurate to describe the real problems with Elf itself. I mean, maps can be phased in, which are kind of to the style Elf currently in, but that's not going to change the basis of the class itself.
Right. In maps as well, I mean, with teams and even regular players in general, they like the older maps, they like the older things. They miss that, and, they don't like the newer maps as well, or as much. I want to say, look in CTF matches, we almost never see these newer maps. It's always, the same Blackout, Skyworlds, opposites. It's usually those maps. I don't think we'll be able to base, any balancing off of map dependence at this moment.
If they really do, like, the super old maps, though, Air Balloons and Duo or Orbis are quite the Elf map.
I think we have to put that, put that down to just the player base itself as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to want to pick a map that you're very practiced on, and until someone starts to play one of these new maps and gets really good at it and thinks they have an advantage over other players on it, like, for example, like when Annie used to pick Airlock because no one remembered what Airlock was, and we had, like, an innate advantage, or when BK used to pick Starlight. If someone does that with one of those newer maps, that can happen, but until it does, we're going to keep seeing these same maps over and over, which means that we have to balance the classes based around both like competitive and casual play.
But that, of course, we're definitely into a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
We're focusing really on the problems with Elf itself. So just based on what the class is at the moment, would you say that it's overpowered? Would you say it's underpowered? I'm
insanely underpowered.
The answer already, but
I would honestly say that I think it's balanced, but the amount of time you have to put into the class to make it balanced is ridiculous.
Right. I would say that the individual abilities are fairly balanced, but when they come together, it just makes a kind of a mess.
It doesn't fit together as a class, really.
Yeah, everybody has pocket picks, and I think, Elf is definitely one of those, or, like a main class. I think it is weaker, but the people have, so much potential and skill on it that they can make it look good. But most players cannot do it. That's the thing. There's maybe five good Elf players out there.
I think that's down. I think that is down genuinely to the kind of the abilities it's been given are so wide-ranging, but that it's a mess.
Well, yeah.
Admiral, before this podcast, Admiral gave me a screenshot from one of Wilhelm's posts, and he put before Elf was even out. Basically, everyone had a different and another imagination of what Elf should be. Some discussed that it would be like a highly mobile, aggressive class. Some wanted it stationary, and basically they tried to find a compromise among everything.
Well, I can make a statement about Elf, like how it is now, like why I think it went wrong, and then I guess where I think we should bring it to. Because, like, okay, so Elf at the moment, Elf was made as a class to, like, counter other classes, right? There's, like, almost no arguing that. With the Shield was made to counter Archer, Earth Element was made to counter other Elves and Soldier, Water Element was made to counter Pyro, right? And Pure Element was made to counter the tanky classes that were, like, really hard for a melee class to kill.
And I guess Wind Element was made to counter anything that couldn't move as much.
Well, yeah, Wind Element, I mean, Wind Element is essentially just a worse lightning spell at the moment.
Yeah.
Which...
I feel that, yeah, like Miski said, it has all those abilities to counter, but a lot of them are pretty irrelevant. I think the Water Element right now, with the full pullback, yes, it does work with Pyros, but usually you have to be very far away. If you run into that flag, you're going to die.
You don't ever have time to do it.
Well, well, the problem with balancing Elf...
In theory, if it was instantaneous, it would be potentially useful to get in and out of the Pyro, which could change the meta, but at the moment, it's not. You can't time it in a fast enough rate that you'd actually get anything out of it.
I think it should be instant pullback, and then with a, kind of a nerf on the side on that of like a cooldown, think of like Mage Lightning.
I'd prefer to see a rework to Water Element, and that's due to like one simple fact, and that's, I feel like buffing Elf while keeping the elements like extremely similar to what they are now is like really dangerous, because as it is made as a class to counter the classes, if we overbuff it, it has a chance to just straight up remove those classes from the meta.
Well, I mean, like, if you're building a class to counter other classes, that's not finding its own particular niche, which is what a gameplay need for a class. You need it to perform a role better than any other, or it needs to either be like a jack of all trades, like say at the moment, Chemist. It can do
Ninja,
basically
stuff
everything
like that.
well. It can't do everything as well as particular classes in that field, but it can do everything, and so it's good for moving about. With Elf, you've just got something that's countering everything else, but not doing anything well on its own. It's not built for something specific.
Yeah, I think what we should do is start with, like, let's say armor, discuss the armor, what we think it should be, and discuss I think we should discuss the armor and sword together, because I think...
Well, I mean, as a class that is supposed to counter other classes, I think it should have a counter of its own, obviously, and a lot of people can say Ninja kind of is that counter.
And Mage
if we
is
do,
the well
right.
I don't think it is.
If we do greatly change the armor and such, then, it'll, in a sense, if the armor's buffed, it's going to be countering almost every single class at that point.
Well, yeah, so...
Yeah, that's it. When you build a class to counter other classes, you're instantly in dangerous territory if you make it powerful. It's
my personal idea with the armor and the sword is... Elf has the 3rd or 4th strongest sword or weapon in the game at the moment. I believe it might be 5th, actually, after Dwarf, Heavy, Ninja, and Necro.
I was looking this out. I think it's behind Ninja, it's behind...
Necro, Engineer, Dwarf, and Heavy.
It's still decently strong, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think the sword is fine.
It's a decent sword.
See,
I like
my idea, right, is because Ninja, if we were just to straight up buff Elf armor, right, Elf would destroy Ninja, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it
so
would be
my personal idea...
I think before we even talk about buffing or nerfing something, we need to decide what kind of thing you want Elf to be. Do you want it to be defensive, offensive?
I'd like to see a kind of switch role, how it can be played like defensive and offensive support, depending on like what abilities you prioritize.
I would personally like to see a support role. We don't have a designated support role besides maybe medic. Yeah, everything else,
Mage, Chemist, kind of, but they're not.
Kind of, but they're also heavily on offense at the same time. They're Mage defense. We don't have a 100% designated support role at this time, and that's something that's always crossed my mind. Well, support, yeah, there's medic, but what else is designated?
Like something.
Support?
Yeah, there's really not a lot else.
Well,
something supportive, but not in essence that's something which really needs protecting by something else.
And generally, a support class
without the protection from other classes.
Generally, a support class wouldn't have high melee damage either.
Right.
Yeah.
In the case of, say, medic, or even mage, where you have to be very accurate to like get your damage off. Which is why personally I'd like to actually buff the elf armor, like every piece by 1 protection level, which would make protection 2 on the chest plate and leggings and protection 3 on the boots, and then nerf the sword level by 1.
Yep, I could actually agree with that a lot.
Because-
Nerfing the sword level would make it, susceptible to the ninjas we talked about earlier.
Yeah, because
You need the
the
cap
problem.
to some extent, because you can. I was trying elf this morning, and as a complete idiot, I'm not.